We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this college football rebel outpost, if you want to support the most unpopular college football national YouTube show in the country with a generous donation, just hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. And look at Bill G. Excuse me. His incredible generosity once again. My goodness. Starting it off, 5 gifted memberships. Bruce Harris, Midnight Magic Musing. Pretty No Girl, Mick Stevens, the Surrey Killer. You've all been gifted a member. You all are officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger. You can go to our library of early peak Cloak and Dagger members only episodes. Go check them out. Check out the whole library of episodes. We've almost got 3 years of episodes, live shows. We lead the country in watch parties. We're going to do it again for the 2025 season. Today we're going to be talking about the top quarterbacks for the 2025 season. We already did a live show on this about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. But I read an article, ESPN, and I thought it was really good. I liked how they did it. So we're going to go through another listing. I am sorry for those who don't want to talk about quarterbacks again. Well, I'll see you tomorrow. How about that? I will see you tomorrow on another live show here at Peek Around the Corner. But I like talking football. And I like talking about it little by little by little by little by little throughout the off season. We let it marinate. We let our thoughts marinate. The last 3 weeks, I have done the way too early prediction order to finish of the SEC, the Big 12, and now we just did the Big 10. Next week, we're going to do the SEC, and the following week, we are going to do the G5, which is going to be the G6 in 2026. So we're going to talk college football today. We are going to talk about, what are they calling it? The college, what are they calling that? The college sports day. College Sports Day on Capitol Hill, April 9th. April 9th. I also want to talk about this and of course, this is where I get in trouble. I am going to start calling this the Super League hoax. I think it's an absolute hoax perpetrated on the college football sickos out there. I don't believe any of this. And I've said this before, but I don't believe any of this. And I think in the near future, this Super League hoax is going to be exposed. And I'm going to go through why I believe this and how it's going to get exposed. It's very simple. I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint right now. It's in the description box. Nobody, no institution, no conference, no media partners are making any decisions right now based upon a possible formation of a Super League in 2030. They're all looking out for their self-interest. And it's going to be more apparent in the next year, 2 years. It's going to be really apparent. Now, my definition of a Super League might be different than yours. We will go through that. We've got a stacked show once again. I am going to make it a determined effort to make sure we get to your phone calls earlier in the show. More phone calls. Because it's NCAA men's basketball tournament tonight, Thursday night, Sweet 16. I know you all want to go watch it. So we're going to try to get this done here. Try to get the phone calls earlier. Thank you so much, Bill G, for your unbelievable generosity to this show and to the people that you've been gifting these memberships to. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Charlie Atwood is in the house. Kay Struthers, Mr. Buckeye Caleb Ramirez, Nathan Campbell, Thomas RTR, Tumasta, Monty. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Monty. Is that the Monty Show? Am I part of the Monty Show? No. Am I Monty? No. Am I related to Monty? No. I don't know what that means. Let me know what that means to Master. Jimmy is in the house. And of course, Bill G the Generous. Bill G is in the house. Rock and Rant. Hey man, that's my topic for tonight. Great minds think alike. What topic? The college sports day. Or is it the top quarterback? Or is it the topic of, I think the Super League is an absolute hoax? Let me know. Let me know, Mr. Hurricane Rock and Rant. The Walking Geek is in the house. Daniel Gygax, Mr. Mountaineer, Kurt P., thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Nick Kelso, Dave B. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Dave B. Go Greg. Jake Ratzlaff, 2. Is Jake Ratzlaff one of the top 15 returning quarterbacks for 2025? He's got to be on the bubble for what he did last year. The magic that he pulled off last year. Let me know in the chat. Do you think Ratzlaff is one of the top 15 quarterbacks for 2025 at the beginning of the season? Nick Kelso is in the house. I see. Monty in the Super League. I do not know. I do not know. I don't watch it. I don't know if he takes L's. I don't know. Again, I do know enough of his show. I do not believe. I don't believe that Super League is even how Monty is describing it. We'll get into it again today on our monologue, but it's unimaginable here at PATC. It is unimaginable that there is going to be a Super League of football, and then there's going to be a regional non-revenue sports are going to go into the region, divisions, it doesn't, I'm sorry guys and gals, but it makes absolutely no logical sense. None. I don't if someone could give me something, it doesn't make, for me to believe that the Super League is going to be created in 2030, I got to believe that the Big Ten is willingly going to disappear there's not going to be a Big Ten baseball league, softball. The Super League football, okay. Now maybe, see, a lot of people are taking a lot of different, when we're talking about Super Leagues, like, somebody on X is saying Super League is gaining momentum. If you ask them what they mean by Super League, they'll give you 8, 9, 10 different variations of it, versions of it. And it's like, well, that means absolutely nothing. You're really not given any information. If it's a Super League in which, okay, the Big Ten does remain. The Big Ten Conference does remain. The SEC does remain. The Big 12 does remain. The AC, all these conferences remain except for football. That doesn't make any sense to me either. Why would the SEC do that? Why is the SEC interested in this at all? It's almost like people think the SEC is just going to tear up everything they've been working towards, this brand, the SEC network. It doesn't make any logical sense to me at all. I think it's an absolute hoax. I get that big money is trying to come in. I get it. And they have been trying to say Super League, we'll get 70 schools together, 60 schools together. We'll carve them up in divisions, which that ain't going to work. And we'll have these different tiers of getting paid. With these the SEC is going to handle their own business. The Big Ten is going to handle their own business. I understand the big money trying to come in, and I think they're coming in high. And then I think they're going to settle in at lower, smaller projects. Let's put it that way. Conference level stuff. If the Big Ten and the SEC want to have a breakaway, again, we're going to talk about this in the monologue. If they want to expand their conferences, if they choose to do so, and if they have a breakaway, that's a breakaway. They're forming their own thing. If you want to call that a Super League, okay, that may happen. But a Super League in which conferences get destroyed, either on the football level or on an Olympic sports level, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Today, tomorrow, yesterday, next week, last month, 2 months from now, the SECs are making decisions based upon their future of a conference. They're not even. This Super League to them is and I've said this before, and I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't piss everybody off. Everybody that I talk to about a Super League, they say, God, in fact, one person said, don't even ask me again. I mean, that's how ridiculous this is to everybody that I talk to. I think it's a hoax. Now I'm calling it the Super League hoax. A Super League in which the Big Ten and the SEC break away. Okay. A merger, a possible merger, 7, 6, 5 years from now when it comes to the next two most powerful conferences in the country, possibly a merger. If you want to call that a Super League, fine. But everything under one umbrella when it comes to college football, and there is no conferences, there is no more SEC football, there is no more Big Ten football, there is no more Big 12 football, there is no more ACC football. It's just under one umbrella. I think it's a hoax. I think it's an absolute hoax. I can't find one credible person that I talk to of everybody that I have communicated over the last decade. The reasons why we've been able to break all these stories because of our sources. Not one of them even they are like, what the hell are people talking about? It's the Super League hoax. That's what I'm going to call it going forward. We're going to hit it again in our monologue. So I guess I disagree. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to take the L. I don't know what Monty is going to do, what other people are going to do. But if I'm wrong, I would definitely take the L. No question about it. Expedition Greg is in the house. Preston from Greensboro. Jeff Morgan, Daniel Gygax, John Pomeroy. I just don't get why the national networks are going to sign off on bad football teams joining the Power 2. They didn't want Stanford in the Big Ten, so how can others compare? Good question, and maybe they need a blend. If you're talking about North Carolina, Virginia, they may need a Clemson and Florida State. They may need that. They may need the correct blend to get into the SEC or to get into the Big Ten. You might be right, John. Or their value is going to be determined by the presidents outside of the college football brand and the media networks. Well, you know what? We're entering in this new era of unequal revenue sharing, right? Well, maybe some of these programs are going to come in at less money. You know, on one hand, people are arguing over Mississippi State should be getting less, Purdue should be getting less. How dare they make the same money as everybody else in the Big Ten and SEC. Well, maybe that is the future. But maybe a Virginia, North Carolina they get brought in, at least initially, at less. Right? I mean, if it's good for Mississippi State, who's been in the conference for 8 decades, if it's good for Purdue, who's been in their conference for over 100 years, then it'd be okay for a new team going into those conferences to make a little less. Washington and Oregon are making less. So why wouldn't North Carolina and Virginia potentially make less? I don't think that's a hurdle that can be overcome. Stanford, it did hurt them. No question about it. Their media value did hurt them. But I think I'll leave it at that. You are correct, John. You are correct. They may need a blend. 1939 national champions is in the house. Nathan Campbell is here. Jeff Maul is here. Ryan Willie on Wisconsin is in the house. Thanks for coming on in, Ryan. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Jimmy is here. Ricky Tungate, surprise Immaculate hasn't called in. Thank you, Tungate. I appreciate the super chat. Appreciate it very much. Immaculate, I've always enjoyed his calls into this program and his comments in the comment section. I've also enjoyed when he was on College Football Mafia show. I haven't seen him there either. But everybody is welcome into the studio and into the chat. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoosier. I do appreciate your incredible generosity once again. Thank you so very much. Tough Tony is in the house. Amazing Blue is here. Edward the Auburn Tiger. Kenneth Maynor. RT. Howdy Nathan. RT's in the house. James Davis. Stephen Vitt, it's not me. Give a like. Thank you so much. I think I got everybody. Go Black 45. Go Black 45 is in the house. Jeff, Crab Cakes and Football. Willard to Villanova. Oh boy. Oh boy, Jeff. I don't know, man. I do not know about Willard. Maryland, Sweet 16. Oh, we've got some gifted memberships that I got to hit before we get to our monologue. Expedition Greg, thank you so very much. Mr. Buckeye, Expedition Greg. Wayne Gerbach has been gifted a membership. Wayne Gerbach, Expedition Greg. Knighted Cloak and Dagger. Wayne Gerbach, please say thank you to Mr. Buckeye when you get an opportunity. Jimmy Austin, Mr. Duck, gifted a membership in 1939 National Champions. Was gifted 1939. Please say thank you to Jimmy in the chat when you get the opportunity. You are hereby knighted, cloak, and dagger. BR7062. BR7062. You were gifted a membership because of the generosity of Gold Black 45. You are officially knighted, cloak, and dagger. Thank you, Gold Black 45. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Thank you so much, Expedition Greg, for your incredible generosity, giving out gift memberships to other PATC family members. Thank you so very much. I do appreciate it. Someone say super conference. We'll get back into all that. We will get back into all of that. Preston from Greensboro, thanks for the year-round football talk. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Preston from Greensboro. I've gotten a little bit. Some people are getting a little bit upset because I take some time in the monologue to actually talk about college football, and it is the springtime, and people they rather have the whole show be about off-season topics, and I get that. And I understand that. And I've lost people over it. And it's my loss, not theirs. There's a whole bunch of great college football YouTube channels out there. But we got to talk college football. We got to let it marinate. We've got to argue. Preston from Greensboro and myself, we argued last year. And you ended up being correct. North Carolina defeated Minnesota. But we got to go back and forth. We got to throw some elbows here. You guys got to make fun of my predictions. I got to make fun of your comments. So we got to talk college football during the offseason. I can't have it. I'm just not going to be able to do it any other way. Football is in my head constantly. So yeah, I do appreciate it, Preston from Greensboro. I appreciate your generosity once again. I also appreciate your comment. It feels good when someone says, thanks for the football talk early in the offseason. I appreciate it. Ryan Willie, the evil badger, once again with a humongous super chat. If talking heads like Cowherd and Stephen A. want the big brands to play each other because they don't want any Cinderella, means a lot of teams are going to be left out. Sorry, CFM. Nathan doesn't want conferences. Couple of things going on there. I haven't heard. Again, a lot of people. Sport analysts, the media partners, want big brands to play each other more often. No question about it. I mean, I think the SEC is going to 9 conference games. They want to play each other more often. The Big Ten went to 9 conference games a long time ago. The Big Ten threw out divisions because they wanted their biggest brands to play each other more often. The rivalries, they have permanent rival games in all these conferences because they want the rival games to make sure they play each other more often. Now you're going to take all of that and twist it around in some 70-team Super League. I haven't seen one logical plan to it. I cannot imagine any SEC teams getting split up from the core of the I cannot imagine any Big Ten teams playing against teams in a division that are not Big Ten teams. They're not going to go for it. They're not going to go for it. I can't imagine any Big 12 team having three teams in your division of the Super League, 3 or 4 teams that are G5. You're good with that? You're good with that home schedule? Again, it's almost like the Super League, I'm calling it a hoax, and I'm not calling anybody who wants it a hoax. I'm not calling anybody who believes it can happen a hoax. I'm not calling anybody who thinks this would improve college football in the future a hoax. I really think the whole idea, though, is just, it's not going to, there is so much, okay, we're going to talk about it later in the monologue. There is so much hand-wringing. There is so much consternation just within the SEC 16 teams when it comes to the change to 8 or 9 conference games. Just that issue alone has been going on for 18 months, and it's been a battle among friends. Can you imagine somebody trying to create a Super League of all these issues that are hammered out and all these, and suddenly, oh, well, we're just going to. And I know what the answer is. It's like, well, Greg, they're willing to do anything. if you can bring in billions of dollars more. Why would a Super League bring billions of dollars more than just the SEC going alone with private capital, or the Big Ten going alone with private capital? Anyways, I think it's going to be, again, we're going to go back into it. But again, I'm getting very generous super chats, and I'm very humbled, and I've got to, I'm very humbled. The memberships that are given out, the super chat. So I gotta, I gotta talk about it. When Ryan Willie is contributing to this channel almost every single day, I gotta give him his due on this super chat. Look, I think it's going to be quite evident. There's going to be some decisions made, ladies and gentlemen, that if there's going to be a Super League formed in 2030, why is the Big Ten throwing elbows on the 4 automatic qualifiers? Why are all these talks when it comes to expansion of these? Why are people even concerned then if Florida State goes to the Big Ten and the SEC? Because there's going to be a Super League anyways. Because there ain't going to be a Super League. It's a hoax, in my opinion. In my opinion. And you are welcome. You are very welcome to disagree with me. I'm going to treat you with the same level of respect that I would treat anybody else. In fact, I will treat you with more respect, because the idiots that agree with me, well, they got to be idiots, right? Because I am a moron, no question about it. Ryan Willie, thank you so very much for the super chat. Thank you, Preston Greensboro, Ricky Tungate. Appreciate it so very much. UMass, Minnesota, who do you got? Who do I got? Who do I got? Where is, I'm looking at my soundboard. I always have a hard time finding this. Hold on. There we go. UMass, Minnesota. We got to have it. Tough Tony, Gophers goaltending is suspect. We got to have it. We got to win it. I'm going to be destroyed if we lose tonight. I might even do an emergency live show if we lose tonight and destroy the studio while I'm doing one. Too bad the spring football games seem to be dying out. Well, hopefully we're going to get a decision tonight or tomorrow on the Colorado-Syracuse spring football game. We're supposed to have a decision by the end of the week, NCAA decision. So hopefully it's a go. Hopefully it gets done. Okay. Let's get to it. First of all, Ross Dellinger. College leaders are holding another college sports day on the Hill on April 9th. Hundreds of ADs and commissioners expected to lobby on the Hill for a bill 2 days after the final House settlement hearing. More House and Senate hearings are tentatively planned for April as well. College Sports Day on the Hill, April 9th. 2 days, right? 2 days. 2 days after the House NCAA settlement should be finalized. Media advisory, college sports, day on the Hill, conference commissioners, athletic directors, coaches, student athletes to visit Capitol Hill for College Sports Day on April 9th. Washington, D.C. on Wednesday, April 9th, hundreds of stakeholders from across collegiate athletics will visit lawmakers on Capitol Hill for College Sports Day. This coalition of conference commissioners, athletic administrators, coaches, and student athletes from the Atlantic Coast Conference, Big Ten Conference, Big 12 Conference, and Southeastern Conference will make the case for legislation creating a national standard for name, image, and likeness in their discussions with elected officials. The ongoing discussions at Capitol Hill. Now, there's going to be more meetings later in the month. I am really, in my opinion, I'm going to be looking more towards the Senate than the Congress. I think the Senate, there is more potential for some sort of compromise, some sort of deal. Name, image, and likeness, a federal standard. You know, you've got all these states, right? They're doing their own state laws. I think there was some report today talking about a Nebraska state name, image, and likeness law, basically saying that Nebraska doesn't have to pay attention to the new rules that have been formed. We'll see what happens. I don't think the College Sports Day announcement for April 9th is really anything earth-shattering, but we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to keep an eye on the reports coming out, and maybe it will feed more happenings later in the month that could be earth-shattering. The chances of them coming up with some sort of federal standard, will it hold up in the courts? I do not know. But we're gonna follow the story. We are going to keep following the story. There's a lot of stories out there when it comes to the courts, when it comes to Congress, and we're going to do the best we can, but we're not going to get too deep in the weeds until there is something monumental. There has been a change of possession, or there has been a touchdown scored. It's why during the Florida State Clemson court cases against the ACC, I kept an eye on it, but I quit talking about it on this live show until someone broke serve. Nobody really actually did, and then we had the ACC settlement, which was a massive victory for the Seminoles, the Tigers, and some other top brands in the ACC. So we'll keep an eye on that story, but nothing really to discuss on this live show, in my opinion. Let's get to the quarterback situation, and then again, I'm going to circle back to the Super League, and then we're going to go to your phone calls a lot earlier than what we've been doing the last few live shows. Once again, my sincere apology on these long monologues. These shows have been absolutely stacked. ESPN, Adam Rittenberg, their rankings, he talked to a lot of people, coaches, ADs. ESPN, Adam Rittenberg, and this is his top 15. And I love this article. Now, we're not going to go through the whole thing. We're going to go through the rankings and what the people are saying about these quarterbacks, the people that the ESPN reporter talked to. I think it's just a nice way of just laying it all out there. Darian Mensah, Duke, number 15. The top 15 quarterbacks going in the start of the 2025 season. The transfer from Tulane. I love him. I love Mensah. I love him. I think this is going to be exciting. What they're saying, Mensah will have to prove himself as an impact power force starter. He's got intelligence. He's got a live arm. He's a good player last year. He's still a young player, a defensive coordinator who faced Tulane. He's going to be an instant impact player, probably. One coach who faced Mensah wondered whether his strengths, play action passes, deep shot plays, would fit into Duke's offense, which relies on quick passes. Does he grow? Does he get better? Darren Mensah, number 15, number 14, Sawyer Robertson, Baylor Bears. So, I did not get too much heat from the PATC family. I thought I was when I had Baylor as number 2 on my way too early Big 12 predictions of order of finish. Baylor, I think, is the team, a fascinating team to watch going into 25. What are they saying? Robertson did not begin the 24th season as the Big 12 starter, but he ended it generating some buzz around the conference. He got a lot better this year, Big 12 coach said. He wasn't the starter. Limited reps. Another Big 12 coach said Robertson's strong finish definitely earned him a place among the league's best returning quarterbacks. He just needed that finish as a confidence boost, defensive coordinator said in the Big 12. Another year under his belt, shoot. That experience is so huge in terms of confidence. Sawyer Robertson, ESPN, Adam Rittenberg, number 14. Number 13, Luke Altmaier, Illinois, Fighting Illini. What are I saying? The Big Ten coaches have a healthy respect for Altmaier after seeing him pass the 2 seasons following his transfer from Ole Miss. He's going to be a third year in the system. I think he's a good athlete. He can throw it, Big Ten DC. Illinois coach Brett Bielema told ESPN that Altmaier sought continuity in deciding to return. Continuity for his final season, and once again will work under primary play caller Barry Lunney Jr. He's a gamer. Another Big Ten defensive coordinator. He's a gamer. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. Luke Altmaier, number 13. Vox Quindaro, we didn't say anything about the Baylor pick because we thought you were pulling our leg. No, I wasn't. Vox, I'm either crazy or crazy like a fox. Vox. Arch Manning, number 12. Number 12. Now, I would have him a whole lot higher than number 12. What are they saying? Manning's usage for most of the season limited how much coaches could scout him. But his highlights, especially during the first few games, caught some attention. His ability to generate long runs and make throws on the move especially stood out. There was way more natural. That was way more natural than I thought it was going to be, an opposing coach said. I was blown away by how effortless it looked. Manning had runs of 15 yards or longer against 4 opponents. Just don't run him too much, Sarkisian. Don't have design running play. Have 1 or 2 a game. Don't get Arch Manning injured. This is the Longhorn season to win it all. But yeah, he is an incredible athlete. Arch Manning, number 12 on this list. But I got to tell you guys know I am the conductor on the Manning hype train. So I got him way higher than number 12. Number 11, again, Adam Rittenberg, ESPN, Kevin Jennings. What are they saying about Mr. Jennings? The way Jennings finished the season didn't go unnoticed, but he still stood out. to coaches around the ACC. Jennings did collapse a little bit in that playoff game. Did collapse somewhat in the ACC championship game. He struggled in the playoff. He struggled against Duke, but he also had a hell of a performance against most of the ACC. A second full season as the starter in Coach Rhett Lashley's offense could help Jennings. Their quarterback just makes a lot of plays, an ACC coach said. He can run around, he's athletic, and they have a perfect system for his talents. He was much more accurate than I thought, and ACC DC added. Jennings, number 11. So who is going to make it into the top 10? ESPN Adam Rittenberg, as he talked to a lot of people before he put out this ranking, number 10, DJ Legway, Florida Gators. Coaches around the SEC are certainly aware of Legway after seeing flashes of what he could do his first season. He's kind of built like a running back, hard to tackle, probably a little bit more athletic than some people give him credit for, an SEC defensive coordinator said. Some of the decision making that he showed as a freshman was pretty impressive. An SEC coach says he thinks he will be among the conference's top quarterbacks this fall. He's at the top of my list, a Power 4 recruiting director said. If I was right now voting for the Heisman guy, it would probably be him over Arch Manning. What? Very interesting. Very interesting. DJ Legway getting a lot of love. Number 10 on the list. Number 9, the tough kid from Georgia Tech. Rambling wreck, Haynes King. Georgia Tech coach Brent Key pointed to King's improvement in 2024, telling me last month he made a ton of improvement. Went from 16 interceptions the year before that and limited to only 2 last year. One was a throwaway early in the season, one in the last game, so he made a drastic improvement there. Others in the ACC recognize King's intangibles, and that is what I love about the kid. He's a leader, baby. You can see it on the football field. He's tough. He gets hit, he gets bounced right back up. Haynes King, number 9. Sure. Number 9, Haynes King. Number 8. Who is number 8 on this list? Nico, Tennessee. I would not have him that high. Maybe he can prove me wrong. Maybe he can shut me up. You know, there's a quarterback. He's number 3 on this list who shut me up last year. Maybe number 8 can shut me up this year. SEC coaches came away impressed with Nico despite some middling performances in conference play. That's a polite way of saying it. Middling performances. But again, I am the first one to say he had a terrible offensive line last year, and I don't know if they're going to get any better. That's why I cannot put the Volunteers into the college football playoffs. They're not in my way too early predictions to make the playoffs because of their O-line. He's still young, trying to figure it out. SEC coach said. He's got the tools. He can make things happen with the feet. He's got him a big live arm. I'm sure he's going to take a big step here. Nico, number 8. I'm not going to buy that. Let me know in the comments section or with your phone calls what you think about Nico going in at year 2 as a full-time starter in the SEC. Number 7, Carson Beck. Carson Beck fell back a little bit from last year. What are they saying? Coaches aren't as down on Beck as others despite his numbers dropping from the 23 season. I just felt like Georgia didn't have the same receiving core last year that they had the year before, SEC coach said. He took a lot of heat. I'm sure that there are things he could have done better. It's always is the way, but I just felt like they weren't the same. You lose the big tight end from the year before. You lose a couple other guys. You're trying to piece it together. You all know that I like Carson Beck. I really like Carson Beck. I think he's got a chance to have a very good year with Miami. Georgia's receiving core was terrible last year, and they had to adjust their offense throughout the season. I think Carson Beck definitely is a top 7 quarterback, no question about it, going into the 25 season. Number 6, Sam Levitt. I would have him higher than number 6. I would have it higher than number 6. I think he is the real deal Holyfield. Although Arizona State leaned on Cam Skadaboo in its run game last season, several coaches pointed to Sam Levitt's mobility and playmaking skills. Absolutely. The kid can make something out of absolutely nothing. Sam Levitt quietly had 40 or more rushing yards in 6 games. He was a lot better than people gave him credit for. His ability to scramble and make plays. A Big 12 defensive coordinator echoed that claim, pointing to Levitt, not Skadaboo, as the biggest factor when facing the Sun Devils. I'm super high on him, the coach said. He's really, really good. He's just so much more athletic than you think, but he throws the ball really well. He's just a perfect blend. To think he's just a young guy, yeah. I got him top 2, top 3 in the country. That's why I've got the Sun Devils winning the Big 12 championship again this year. Sam Levitt, but on this list, he's number 6. Number 5. Lenore Sellers, South Carolina. Wow. The Gamecocks have got a top 5 quarterback in ESPN's quarterback rankings. Coaches around the SEC came away very impressed with Sellers after his first season as South Carolina's starter. He's going to be really tough to handle, coach said. He can run. He also can throw it well. His mental and physical ability to throw the ball jumps out. An SEC defensive coordinator who didn't face Sellers last fall still came away impressed after watching on film. I can't tell you how polished he is as a passer, but just his sheer athleticism, the way he moved when he scrambled became a problem, the coach said. I thought he gave some guys fits. Absolutely he did. Talking about a guy who can create something out of nothing. It is Sam Levitt and it is Lenore Sellers. Absolutely. South Carolina knocking on the door once again this year, in my opinion, to make the playoffs. South Carolina knocking on that door. Number 4, the exciting, the real Johnny Football, John Mateer, transfer, Washington State to Oklahoma. What are they saying? Mateer wowed opposing coaches he faced in 24, both in the Power 4 and the Group of 5, as he succeeded against all types of opponents. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country next year. If that guy's in a rhythm, you can't stop him. John Mateer. He seems like an elite competitor. Those quarterbacks scare me more than even the high talent guys. They're the ones on the 4th and 5 in the red zone where the game's on the line. Like, if it's not there, they're going to take off and it's going to be a touchdown. Those are the guys that keep you awake at night. John Mateer, look, I've got Oklahoma in the middle of the pack in the SEC. But John Mateer, I love the fact that he's at Oklahoma. I love it. I love it. I think the people, the great Sooner fan base is going to love watching him. Art Buckle, the OC, the offensive coordinator, came with him from Pullman to Norman. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. John Mateer is going to be a lot of fun. Number 3, the guy who shut me up, Garrett Nussmeier. An SEC coach called Nussmeier an elite player, adding that he's probably the conference best returning quarterback. Another SEC coach noted Nussmeier passing yards total and said he's going to cause a lot of problems for teams. He has really good pocket awareness. Yes, he does. He impressed the hell out of me last year. I gave him a bunch of elbows in the offseason. Nussmeier shut me up. He shut me up the very first game of the season. LSU lost, but I said Nussmeier is the real deal. Tough kid. Tough kid. Now, they did not have a physical, they could not run the ball. They didn't have any physicality. But himself, very tough kid. Great player. Nussmeier, number 3 on the list. Number 2, Drew Aller. He better be number 2. He better be number 2. He has to be number 2. For the Nittany Lions to get where they need to get to win the national championship, it's got to be there. It's got to be there. Drew Aller has to have it all come together. What are they saying? Aller certainly looks the part. Big frame, strong arm, the ability to move a bit. He's also sneaky athletic. He's an NFL talent. You walk up to him, he's all of 6'5", can make every throw. Another opposing coach said he gained more respect after facing Aller than going in, watching him take hits and continuing to make plays. Everybody I talked to going in says he's the first-round draft pick a year from now, the coach said. I watched tape and I thought we saw better players, but after playing him, I was impressed with how he's able to handle himself. And I can tell you, Penn State defeated Minnesota 26-25 last year. And Drew Aller did not have a good first part of the game. The coach had to settle him down. Franklin went to the bench, went to a knee, settled him down, and he played better. He made the plays. He still has to make that next step mentally, emotionally. He's got to gain a little bit more maturity, in my opinion. If he does that, if he makes those intangibles improvements, yeah, he's the guy, man. And I think Penn State can win the whole damn thing in 2025. Number 1, the top rated quarterback, Adam Rittenberg, ESPN. Cade Klubnik, Clemson. What are they saying? ACC coaches clearly respect Klubnik, who led Clemson to a somewhat surprising conference title last fall. He's got a lot of experience, so I think he'll do an excellent job, just like any quarterback. He's been through the struggles, the ups and the downs. I thought he finished well and played well for the most part. He's got a real good team around him. Another ACC coach acknowledged that Klubnik is the best right now in the conference. And another described him as gritty, tough kid. He's played a lot. I don't know if he's an NFL guy or first or second rounder, but he's gotten a lot better decision-making wise. He's one of the most improved passers in the country. an ACC defensive coordinator at it. I know he was gritty, a competitor, but the passing really got better last year. I agree. I mean, my goodness. Second half of the season, Clay Klubnik took off, skyrocketed. And I think he's going to be a superstar this year. Next week, we are going to be doing our PATC way too early order finish for the ACC, the last of the Power Four conferences. And I think you all know where I'm going to put Clemson. Although, by August, I got to be more comfortable in Clemson's ability to stop the run. Last year, they couldn't stop anybody. But beyond that, I've got Clemson going to be number one in the ACC. Clay Klubnik. Wesco, I just heard, the sophomore, the great freshman receiver, Wesco, has come in 20 pounds heavier, all muscle. So their top flight receiver took it serious in the offseason, and he is ready to dominate. Klubnik to Wesco, Klubnik to Wesco. Clemson is going to be very difficult to beat. Put down your comments and thoughts. Let me know. Let me know. Dabo said he looked average in spring. It's all about whether Kelly's LSU can finally field an elite defense. Nitwit, never seen so much hype for quarterback. Josh Hoover is easily a top 10, and he's closer to 5 than 10. Wow. Replica. Wow. I like Josh Hoover. Would I have him in the top 15? Would I have him above Mensah? Woo! I'm going to say not quite. Robertson? No. 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 Let's see here. Jennings? No. I don't know. I don't think I can have Josh Hoover in the top 15. It's like Jake Ratzlaff. I can't quite have him in the top 15. Can't quite. Now, again, Rocco Beck, Iowa State. I would, he's right there too. He is right there as well. Rocco was not on the list. Okay, let's get to, again, I promised I would get to your phone calls a lot earlier than I've been doing. So I just want to quickly go through the last story. And it's just, I honor everybody's opinion. I know there's real serious people who believe that a Super League could come about. They're advocating for it. A lot of big money is trying to make it happen. A lot of serious people have worked on this. There has been consultants on the Super League. And again, I just want to make it clear that the only, I'm going to make it real clear. I think the Super League has become a hoax. I want somebody to convince me any evidence out there that it's going to happen, that it has any chance of happening. If somebody can provide me evidence, if somebody can provide me a name, I will be happy to talk with anybody, almost anybody. Everybody that I have talked to says it is big money, trying to get into the college football space, and they're going to get in, but they're starting high and they're going to settle for something lower. That the college football that we are going to be watching 10 years from now is not going to be under one umbrella where there is no SEC, no Big Ten, no Big 12, no possibly ACC. That the big power players, why would they be for this? It makes no sense. And I have partially titled this show, "A Super League Hoax Will Eventually Be Exposed." I really firmly believe that. And just let me end my monologue by saying how I think it's going to be exposed. I think it's going to be exposed in so many different ways. I'm just going to take the SEC, for example. 16 universities, SEC network, the brand that they have been building over the last couple of decades, the SEC network, they're going to be making decisions here. They're making a whole bunch of different decisions. 9 conference games versus 8. If they do the 9 conference games, they're going to get paid a little bit more. If they get paid a little bit more, they're probably going to have to extend their commitment to ESPN, which, why wouldn't they? And with the knowledge that there might be another media company coming in at some point as they have more content, whatever. They're going to be making decisions on what the college football playoff format is going to look like for 2026 to 2031. The SEC is going to be making decisions on when and who do they expand the conference with. They're going to be spending a lot of time on this. Florida State and Clemson have spent a lot of money in the courts. And they won a massive victory. They risked a lot. North Carolina Blue Matter, having to do with conference affiliation. There are people spending money, working hours, doing all these things. Everyone's calling each other. Everyone's trying to position themselves better. They're doing all this not because they think there's going to be a Super League in 31. They're doing this because they want to gain higher. They want to improve themselves. They're looking out for their own self-interest. They believe the SEC is not going anywhere. They believe the Big Ten's not going anywhere. Yormark has a Redbird capital plan on the table. They don't know if they can get it done, but they're working on it. They've got possible expansion plans going on. They've got possible creating a more bandwidth on calendar dates for the college football games. I think you're going to be hearing more about that for the 26th season. You got conferences thinking about playing games to create more revenue. You've got other you got the Big Ten doing a private capital deal. Possibly. You've got a scheduling agreement between the Big Ten and the SEC that may have to extend their commitment to their media partners because they're going to get more money out of it. There is so much going on right now. And if the answer to all this is Super League, where we're all under one umbrella, where there's 60 of us, 50 of us, 70 of us, and there is no more Big Ten SEC football conference, then why are we doing all this? It doesn't make any sense. None. And then you've got really smart people saying, and they are smart people, they're a whole hell of a lot smarter than I am. They say, Greg, but it's about the money. They're willing to, if the Buckeyes can make $300 million more money in a football season than they do now, If it has to do with the Super League, they're going to do it. Well, my answer is why would it take a whole Super League if they want to bring this big money in? Why wouldn't the Big Ten do it on their own, or in concert with the SEC, or in concert with the SEC and another power conference, or in concert with the 4 power conferences? But a Super League, and I think the chances of that are none. 0, by the way. But this whole Super League, somehow all this money's coming in, but yet the Big Ten and the SEC couldn't do it alone or together. Why would a Super League of 70, of 60, of 50 make more money for Ohio State versus the Big Ten and the SEC breaking off, for example? Nobody has been able to present me a reason why that would give more money to Alabama. The Big Ten could only give, they're negotiating, the media partners negotiating with Washington and Oregon. They came in at half shares. People are saying, just in the chat room, well, Virginia, North Carolina, they would have to come in at half share. They're not worth that much. Good. I mean, logical, right? Logical. It is very difficult for the SEC and the Big Ten to expand and not lose the money, right? A lot of people coming up with a lot of good scenarios why this wouldn't work, why that wouldn't work. But suddenly a Super League of 70 teams and, oh my goodness, this is what's going to make it so we're all piled in with money. Where's that money coming from? Oh, it's coming from it's coming from private equity, private capital. Well, how does this Super League pay that back? How are you going to generate that much money? What is and again, I never get the answers. I think it's a hoax. At this point, until somebody can give me something to chew on, I think is the Super League is the Trojan horse. It's big money has gotten everybody's attention. Outside third party has gotten everybody's attention. They're willing and dealing with Brett Yormark. Tony Petitti has some sort of possibility, a little bit of a plan with private capital. Possibly. They're looking at it. They got final bids that came in. We believe there are some G5 conferences that are looking at it. Once the Mountain West Conference gets through the choppy waters here, they're going to be looking at it. Once the AAC, they're going to be looking at it. They're already looking at it. All these deals, none of these deals have the idea of Super League in their mind. They have to do with this is the conference and we want to be around 10 years from now. I do not know how a Super League is going to be able to untwine all these things. I had a conversation, and I think he's okay with me saying this. I had a conversation with Moen. I mean, everybody says that the next Big Ten media package negotiations start, it's for 2030, 2031. Are we even sure that the Big Ten's not going to redo their media contract before 2030, 31? The Big Ten is trying to land all these planes, trying to get a scheduling agreement with the SEC. They're going to, in 2026, they're going to try to redo their bow tie-ins, have more bow tie-ins with the SEC. The Big Ten is probably going to push through automatic qualifiers. Then the Big Ten is going to have these play-in games, and that's going to take negotiations with their media partners. You've got all this new stuff going on, and there is a very good chance that the Big Ten signs a new media rights agreement in 2027, 28 that goes until the early 2030, 232, 233, or 234. And lastly, I gave one example early in the monologue about how the SEC, I mean, they're out. Look, of course, they come in front of the cameras and they're all unified with the SEC, but there's battles going on in there. Of course there is. In the Big Ten, it's 18 teams. You're seeing the travel. You're seeing the, all these, the scheduling, the battles that are going on. And when it comes to possible conference expansion, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be political inside the Big Ten. Everyone's going to want something. Oregon and Washington are going to want to make sure that nobody comes in at more than they're getting, right? The Western schools are going to want more schools in the West. There are Eastern schools that want, the Big Ten to go south. Everybody wants Notre Dame. The academia wants North Carolina, Virginia, just like the SEC. They're all looking out for their own interest in the conference. And you've got 18 different interests. Super League, you're going to have 50, 60, 70 different interests. And they're all going to get together and they're all going to form a Super League. It's all going to be done because somehow someone's going to be this great leader that's going to be able to create it all. I don't believe that leader's out there. I mean, unless it's a Monty, I don't understand how is this ever going to even get off the ground. Lastly, and we're going to go to the phone calls right now. If you are a proponent of, if you believe it's good if it happens, if you believe it is going to happen, that is fantastic. In fact, all I want going forward from March 27th on, I just want there to be some evidence. Give me evidence that this is actually happening. Or it's not that it definitely is going to happen, but like any steps that it's going to happen. Like people are meeting or just give me something. Something. Anything. Everybody that I've talked to has nothing. So for right now, I'm going to call it the Super League hoax. The possibility, and I don't want it to happen. I do not want this to happen. The possibility of a Big Ten SEC breakaway in 2031, I think that's a possibility. I'm not going to call that a Super League, though. I think I'm going to call that a breakaway. And the evidence on that is because the Big Ten and the SEC have talked about this. With Notre Dame, they threaten the ACC. They threaten the Big 12. I've always believed that could happen. What I've said is it's not going to happen before 2026. But for 2031, I've been saying since the start of this YouTube channel, it could happen in 31. I don't want it to happen. But that's a breakaway. And those conferences are going to be looking to expand. If it can happen, if it makes them more money or exposure or give them more students, whatever they're looking for, that could happen. But for those two conferences to suddenly go and say, Super League, that's going to help us all. We're not going to forget about all these decisions we've made over the last 3 decades. We're going to rip those up, throw those away. Forget about the SEC brand that we've built. Forget about everything. Forget about everything. Super League, baby. We are going to put our trust in the into who? Who are we going to trust? Who is the SEC going to trust to create the Super League? Once you start thinking those ways, I think it's a Super League hoax. Let me know how wrong I got it. Let me know how wrong ESPN's top 15 quarterback ranking, how wrong they got it. Let me know about the college sports days. Let me know about that as well. What do you think is going to happen on April 9th? The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The phone lines are open. Greg talks about the student doomsday.
From
Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for just a moment, please?
You bet.
I appreciate it. I was just reading a comment here by PS. Greg talks about the student doomsday, the apocalypse, but does not think that all this greed is going to lower NCAA ratings. The college football playoff ratings were not good. Notre Dame versus Penn State did not even sell out the Orange Bowl. Well, I happen to think the college football playoff expansion was fantastic because it brought a lot more interest during the regular season. So overall, if we're not just taking a look at attendance and ratings of the playoffs, it brought in more value to the regular season. And by the way, yes, that is why the SEC and the Big Ten are looking for more automatic qualifiers, because they want to bring in more value to their conference regular season. And if the Big 12 and the ACC get 2 automatic qualifiers, you can more focus on conference races. That is the theory. I love the college football playoffs. I don't want it to change, but what I want is going to be left behind. I finally got what I wanted in the playoffs, but it's going to change here dramatically. I like the 12. I liked everything about it. There's a lot of reasons about the ratings. There's a lot of variables in that. There's NFL. There's a lot of things going on. But I do understand your point, PS. I appreciate you coming on in. I appreciate the comment. Rick, the floor is yours. Let it rip.
Well, you waited till the very end of the monologue to throw cold water on me.
What did I just say? I don't even remember.
You threw cold water on Rick's Super League.
Yeah, but that's let me have it. Throw hot water on that. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me no, this would work.
I'll tell you you're wrong. How about if I tell you you're wrong and give you some evidence?
Got it.
I think the Super League, Rick's Super League, is going to be the Big Ten and the SEC.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I got a lot to get at.
Got it.
It's going to be 20 teams each for 40, or 24 teams each for 48. But that'll be it. That's the max, between 40 and 48. Before you go on, I just want to say I agree with you, but I'm just not calling that a Super League. I'm calling that a breakaway. Everybody in the nation would call that a Super League.
Well, okay, then the Super League is not a hoax. But I've always said that could happen. I'm talking about the Super League that most people are using the phrase for. You remember the creation, the things that have come out, the two organizations that have come out with the Super League, that's not what it wasn't about the Big Ten and the SEC breakaway. That was 70 teams or 60 teams or you know what I'm saying? So
you're absolutely right. Many other people have have concocted different schemes
Yeah.
that comprise a super league.
Okay.
But in my super league, in Rick's super league, it's the SEC and the Big Ten only, and there's going to be either 40 or 48 teams. And what they're going to do is it will probably come to fruition in 30 or 31. They'll do everything that they're planning on doing and have their 9 conference games plus 1 game against each other for a total of 10. And then they'll have 2 outside games with whomever. They'll have their own play-in for their conference. The conference will stay the same. And this will be football only. This Super League is football only in Rick's Super League. Not concerned about the other sports. They'll have the play-ins to determine who goes to the Super League CFP. And the only teams in the Super League CFP are going to be SEC and Big Ten teams. And then they'll crown a national champ. And then there'll also be a Little League. And the Little League will comprise the ACC and the Big 12 and a G5 representative and Notre Dame. And they'll have the same thing, but it won't be Super League. And they'll do virtually the same thing, and they'll crown their own champ. But it won't be the national champ. It'll be the Little League champ. And my evidence for this is simple. When they agree to 442211, they're acknowledging that the Big Ten and the SEC are twice as good as the ACC and the Big 12. And if they don't fight and win a 3-3-3-3, then they lose. That's it.
Tumasted just said in the comment, Greg isn't arguing against this version. Because because Rick had the floor. I wanted him to, put out what he believed. First of all, I hope to God that doesn't happen as a college football fan, number one. Number two, I don't believe that exact version could have. Notre Dame is going to be at the highest level. Notre Dame, in fact, when Ross Dellinger reported this, when the SEC and the Big Ten threw out that threat to the Big 12 and the ACC, Bavacqua, the Notre Dame athletic director, was in the meetings with the Big Ten and the SEC. Notre Dame, let me make this, I'm not talking to you, Rick, okay? I'm just talking to everybody, all right? So I don't want you to take this as a direct shot or anything. Notre Dame has no interest. Notre Dame is not going to be left behind. Notre Dame is going to remain what they are today, a giant independent football program with their sports teams in the ACC, or they're going to end up in a major power conference or this breakaway Super League business. Notre Dame is not going to join some Rick calls it Little League, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to call it. They're not going to be doing some sort of, in my strongly held opinion, they're not going to be in some sort of private organization conference with private institutions. Notre Dame, I want to get this out there. How Notre Dame treats the future is a lot like how Notre Dame treated their hockey program. Their hockey program was in Hockey East, a good hockey conference. Boston College, a good Boston U, the Terriers, who just played the Buckeyes today, and a good hockey conference. Better than the Big Ten when this was going on. Not so much anymore, but better than the Big Ten. And they left Hockey East to join the Big Ten because of the travel to go to these small towns, these bus rides. They did not like the there was a lot of things they didn't like. So they went and they called the Big Ten. I was the one who broke that story because I was fortunate to have BTM and his people tell it to me. I broke it, got interviewed on the local Minnesota sports. We were the ones who broke the story. Notre Dame called the Big Ten, and it was a big deal in Minnesota and a big deal in the Big Ten. Notre Dame made that they're not interested in playing at any level but the highest level of sports. So in that aspect, I would disagree with Rick, and I won't call the other thing Little League, but I would agree with Rick so far as if you want to call that a Super League, I would not call that a Super League. I call that a breakaway. But whatever you want to call it, I think what Rick said, besides the Notre Dame part, I think that has some potential to it, and there is evidence to it. As Rick was saying. Go ahead, sir.
I'm only saying that if Notre Dame chooses not to join Rick's Super League. They have an invite.
Yeah.
But this is the end. This is where it comes to an end.
They'll join. At that point, they'll join.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think they would be. I think they would.
Yeah.
I think anybody who was invited would.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this 4-4-2-2-1-1.
It's a big deal. I know.
What aren't you conceding? If you're those, aren't you conceding that you're a 2-2 and not a 3-3?
Yeah, it's and you hear reports of Phillips and Yormark fighting back, so. I think there is, you can't get the, and I've said it, I'm against it, you can't get the toothpaste back in the tube, but I think it's going to happen. I think it's a fait accompli, but Yormark and Phillips has been arguing in public against it, and I'm sure they've been doing it in private.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me speak.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate it, Rick. Great call.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
You got it. Legendary caller, Rick, opening up the phones. Phone lines are open, guys. 763-260-1333. Yeah. I personally am not calling that a Super League. But I think a lot of people will call that. I think a lot of people are using the word Super League in about 20 different ways, 20 different versions.
From
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute is on the line. The floor is yours.
Greg, the problem with the SEC and the Big Ten version of the Super League that I'm hearing here,
yeah,
I'll be honest with you, it's not super.
I
it's
agree.
Just a league. Like, so
I wouldn't call it a Super
folks
League.
are going to call it a
Super
breakaway. League.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it a breakaway or whatever. Most people are calling it a Super League. You just don't have the best teams in that league to call it a Super League. And, like, you've got plenty of the low-end teams and everything in the Big Ten and the SEC that are complete drains on this thing. Financially, like from what it could be. So the idea of Super League is to kick out the fat and just take the red meat. I mean, like you say all the time, it's consolidation. Money. Best. Breakaway football. Get 30 to 40 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC, or the big ratings driver. Stick football in its own invitational league and call it a real Super League. Yeah. Not just breakaway league, not just Big Ten, not just SEC, the Premier League I'm talking about. Premier, the Super League, the real Super League, not just league, not just academic league, not just research league, the Super League. That's what folks want to watch. They don't want to watch this Big Ten football. Out here in Big 12 country, out here in Salt Lake
Well,
City.
why? Wait a second. Wait a second now. Again, see, you and I agree a lot with what you're saying, but people don't want to watch Big Ten football. Well, they do watch Big Ten football. And
I don't watch Big Ten football.
well, okay, you don't, but I
it's the biggest
don't.
brand.
I watch everything. I watch Big 12. I'm not tribalistic. I watch everything. I do watch parties for everything. But there's a lot of Big Ten people that don't watch Big 12. They don't think you're red meat. They don't think you're red meat at all.
No,
that's my point.
And I agree with you. Right, I agree. Yeah, there's plenty of Big 12 that's just a fat that would never get included if it's 30 or 40 teams. 100%. Right. Like, it's not like Super League idea is going to benefit the Utes probably. They'd be a bubble team, maybe in, maybe out. Right? Like, there's plenty of teams that are going to be bubble teams. I'm not even arguing on behalf of like any of the Big 12 teams.
Well,
I'm just talking about from a business sense. You said it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And the evidence and everything. I don't have any evidence. I don't have any meetings for like a Super League generation or anything.
You don't have to have a meeting. I need like what I'm hoping for is a report, like something, like this that we've had two different introductions of this Super League. By the way, Wild Ute, you're talking of a Super League that is really skinny, right? Right?
Absolutely. That's the only one that makes any sense.
So your Super League is a lot different than your Super League is different than the Super Leagues that have been proposed by big money. Okay, so let's keep that clear. So what I'm saying is, so we've had these two introductions of these two different like Super Leagues, pretty big stuff, but I'm waiting for just any report, anything. Like, all I see is what I'm seeing today on March 27th in the Lord, in the year of the Lord 2025.
Yeah,
I'm seeing the same thing that I saw in 2012. Like, I'm seeing conferences, their own self-interest, making plans for the future. And I don't see Super League involved in it. You would think at some point we would get something saying, well, you know, there's a potentiality that the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to line up where things end at the same season, and the big, you know what I'm like something, or somebody, something gets leaked out of Columbus or Birmingham or Starkville or somewhere saying, you know, there's interest from Ole Miss or something, some interest in the Super League, like something, but we don't get any of it. We're getting the same. There's going to be competition between these conferences, and it's more of the same. So that's what I'm saying. I want to see something more than just, we have these two things that were introduced to us, right? And the Super League right now, Wild Jude, I got it on the title of the screen. Right now, I'm going to treat it pretty much as a hoax.
Well, it's an idea, right? Like it's not imminent. It's not today. It's not going to be tomorrow. But like we've always talked about, it could be 10 years in the future. But and there's evidence. I can't point to any evidence of meetings or anything. But just from a business standpoint, it does make sense. And it does make sense by consolidating the biggest brands, pushing them together, and getting bigger slices of the pie in a premier conference. I mean, that's always made sense. That actually aligns with your consolidation theory, too, of why a USC jumped to the Big Ten and everything, to get more payouts and everything else. This is strictly a business financial play. Has nothing to do with alignment of research dollars or anything else. Like I mentioned to you before, the Big Ten would stick. It would stick around whatever it would be when football leaves it, in this type of idea, right? Football would be its own entity. Everything else would stick around because it's regional. But football is too valuable a property to have where you're not playing best on best brands. And so I think that the actual payouts would be significantly higher if you took the best SEC brands and the Big Ten brands and you left out 10, 15 teams maybe. Maybe not even that many, 8 to 10.
Where are these other – wait, and that's where you and I Where are these other 10 and 15 brands? Like,
just follow the ratings, Greg. Look at the ratings the last 12 years.
Okay. First of all, the ratings are affected by your time slot. Like, if these 10 or 15 really good red meat brands outside the P2, if they were in the Big Ten and the SEC, how would they be faring differently than the 10 and 15 you just kicked out? I would argue
because
only
they're
a couple
brand
of them.
drivers with fan bases. And they're known to it nationally more than some of these Big Ten more.
Okay, well, yeah,
regions.
You and I we disagree on. I don't know. Like, again,
you wanted to hear the rationale. This is the rationale for it, though.
I'm not. I mean, pick a school. Oklahoma State, right?
Bubble team.
What?
Bubble. They're a bubble Super League team.
Okay, but let's just.
I don't know
if
they're in or out, right?
No matter who I use, I'm gonna. I mean, okay, throw Oklahoma State in there, and throw Maryland out. Okay. Is Oklahoma State getting bigger ratings than Maryland? Is Oklahoma State winning more games than Maryland? Again, you're playing. I mean, if you're in the Big Ten, you're doing fine against everybody else in the country. You're getting your skull broken by Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, and most of the teams in the country would get their skulls broken by those three teams, just like in the SEC. Arkansas, throw Arkansas out, throw in Kansas. Okay, is Kansas going to be doing better than really? Are they going to be getting your red meat? I don't think brings the juice that you think it does by subtracting so-called non-valuable SEC Big Ten schools. I think that is where we also differ. I'm not seeing this big.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like. Yeah. Part of the reason why the bottom of the SEC is the bottom of the SEC because they're playing the top of the SEC. It's hard.
I don't think that if you put Mississippi State into the Big 12, they're going to be winning the Big 12 or even competing.
They're going to be doing better than they are now. Absolutely, because they're going to be still having the same recruiting ground.
I guess we'll have to disagree with that one. Like these lower brands in the Big 10 and the SEC, I'm not going to bite that they're going to win the ACC or the Big 12. It's not that big a difference. I mean, I get the top of the top is, but when you're talking about the bottoms, I have a very different viewpoint of that.
Yeah, I know, and we do.
Where you get more juice with the squeeze because you're kicking out the schools that just aren't football focused, and this is a football only enterprise.
Okay, yeah, we just disagree.
That's it. That's it.
But Wild Ute, man, I love you. You know that, right?
I do, and I love talking about this too.
Yeah,
because
I love
nobody.
You. And
I don't think anybody else supports this, but maybe in my mind's eye. And the funny thing is, Utah probably doesn't even get in, right? Like, let's be honest about it. Utah's so bubble team, they probably wouldn't even get in this.
Well, with you've got with your version, maybe they do, maybe they don't. With everyone else's versions, they do. Okay. Well, anyways, look. I'm open, baby. I'm open. Look, if anybody has any juice out there that they can tell me that something is percolating under the ground, I'm gonna cover it. Wild Juice gonna say, look, Greg, look. But it's been months and months and months, and again, I can't get anybody to tell me that it's serious. So that's why, But I'm open, baby. I'm open.
One last thought, okay? Then I'm going to jump off. Let somebody else call in.
Yep.
Okay, so here's like a genesis of it, okay?
Yeah.
And thinking of what way. This is just complete speculation idea, right? There's no proof of this. It's just a thought, okay?
Yep.
Say that Florida State's a brand, a very significant brand, and they're fighting to get into Power 2 for X, Y, and Z reasons. The Power 2 blocks them. Because the relationships, everything we've talked about for a long time, they get blocked out. And all of a sudden, they're sitting there. They know private equity wants to work with them, that could be a genesis of a pull away and start of a private equity funded college football league led by a brand like Florida State that might trigger something like a super league because of future payouts on the upside. Anyway, that's just like a thought that I've had.
Yeah, it's a very good thought. It's a very good thought. I
like, you mess around with brands like Florida State enough, and you make them send love letters to the likes of Northwestern, and like we're joking around and everything. I get that it's jokes, but like Florida State fans, they're pissed, right? Like, really? Like, we're Florida State.
Well, wait a second. Wait. Okay, let's talk about Florida State, for example. They would be one of the red meats that would come in your Super League thing, right? I don't think there's many Florida States out there. I think there's only like a Florida State, Clemson, and possible a couple other schools. I believe that Florida State's going to get to where they need to get to because they're too big a valuable brand. But I guess I'm going to be the only college football YouTube channel that has to say what is honestly the truth. You've got to get Northwestern's vote. And you're not going to... Look, Northwestern just is building... They're building $1 billion freaking stadium in Chicago, for God's sakes. There's not going to be any debt to it. It's going to be a beautiful stadium. They've got a beautiful practice facility. They're not going to... You can't walk... You cannot... And I know that War Chant doesn't speak for Florida State University. I'm hoping that Florida State gave somebody a call at War Chant. You can't be just blowing off Northwestern. You can't. Nope. It's about votes. You can't have that attitude. That's all I was trying to say. And if they're pissed about it,
I 100% agree.
Huh?
I agree with you 100%. You're right about that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if that did tarnish relationships and they get blocked out, you're talking about a school with a brand that has real drive and pride.
I know.
Do something else to trigger something, right?
They could. They absolutely could. There could be a third big conference headlined by Florida State, Clemson, Utah, and these other brands that you believe would bring in the more. Absolutely. I think they got
that would be backed by private equity. I really think so.
Oh,
I think at that point, get private equity involved.
Yeah.
You'd have alignment there because you got nowhere else to go. You get the cream of there, and then you start from there. But we're speculating. These are ideas.
We are.
But
let me. You're right. But let me just say this. I know you're a busy man. Wild, you want to get off the line. But let me say this. We're talking about what Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, they're talking to these conferences, Miami. People are like Oregon and Washington. They had sit-down meetings with the Big Ten and everything. Well, internally, there's meetings going on. And I want to go back to Northwestern for a moment. I mean, Northwestern has had talks with the Big Ten. And one of these things is that Northwestern is building this stadium, $800 million to $1 billion. They have a beautiful practice facilities. There is a commitment to the original member of the Big Ten, Northwestern, to the Big Ten Conference, and back and forth. So you're not going the Big Ten, Northwestern ain't going to get kicked out of anything. It's the same, and you wouldn't want, Florida State would not want to come in the Big Ten and like there's a commitment there. I mean, Washington and Oregon join at half share. They expect full share in the next go around. They're not expecting, you know what I'm saying? There's so many interlocking commitments in these conferences, even not just academically and research, but athletically. People are making investments, and then you're going to, 5 years from now, they're going to be kicked out because they're not red meat enough. Boy, that is talking about people suing people. Whew. But anyways, I'll give you the last word, sir.
It's realignment is Darwinianism. And if it's the survival of the fittest, it's consolidation. It really is about the finances at the end of the day, if those are a serious driver. And I'll keep saying this, in the views that I've got here, football would break away and the Big Ten would still exist with your research institutions and everything else. What is, let's just say, if you're in Indiana, What's Indiana going to do if Ohio State pulls away and wants to pull their football away? They can't do anything. They don't have the power. Like, that's just how it is in life. And so if Ohio State is the driver, Michigan, Ohio State, bam, the biggest brands would have to get pulled and be the first movers on something like this. For it ever to happen, there's no indication of that. Moen says it all the time, no Super League. He thinks it's asinine. I get it, right? But, like,
Yeah.
so I don't know how you get it jump-started without the big brands on board. But
I don't know. I don't know either, but I'm waiting for evidence that something is, All right, sir.
All right. Thanks,
Wow,
guys.
Jude,
Take
you're
care,
the greatest, man. No matter what Moen says about you, you're the greatest.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, sir. Beautiful. Beautiful phone call by Wild Jute to Professor.
Call from
Nitwit.
Nitwit is on the line. The floor is yours, Mr. Nittly Lion.
Man, I tell you what, that was a great conversation, guys.
Yes, it
great
was.
Job. Just getting through spring practice here. We got LeVar Harrington Jr. on campus. Watch out for that young man. Might be a future linebacker coming your way. So all reports looking pretty good.
All right.
So,
I love those reports.
he's got a pretty good pedigree there in Penn State lore. Just wanted to call in and kind of talk about some of these things. I think you and Greg, when I call in, I'm always looking at an economic background, looking at markets. Basically, when you have these markets out here, and you brought it up, there's market forces that need to happen. When a market gets unstable, you have big winners and big losers. Somebody made the bet that made them the winner, and that's the Big Ten and the SEC. And we can go back through the history, the Big Ten creating their own network, all that kind of stuff. That made them the big winner. The Big 12 and the ACC need to really look in the mirror and say, look, if we don't do something by getting our big brands together and creating that third big conference, you're definitely going to see a lot of trouble and a lot of more losing in the future because, like I said, you've already had two companies that have won. They're the two big brands. Your two small companies are not going to add, how can I say, more value to the market with you guys competing together. So I know it's a lot of kind of economic look at it, but then there's a lot of things that have to happen here coming up, Greg. I think you saw the story where St. Francis, a D1 school here close to Altoona, went from a D1 to a Division III. Mm-hmm. And those things are coming up, Greg. I know people are talking. You talk about house settlement. I think there's going to have to be a great shakeout. Like we've been down through this historically. Remember universities way back when it started giving scholarships and the private schools didn't want to, and how that all played out. Harvard never did give scholarships. And look where they're at versus the ones that did. So you're going to have a phase. There has to be a great shakeout, Greg. Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Schools have to decide, am I in or am I out? And that's going to play out. First, you'll have the house settlement, and that's going to go through, talk about destabilizing everything. I know everybody's saying, well, all these athletic departments, they've been working on this for a year and blah, 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 and they're all ready for it. Well, as soon as that drops, it's going to get challenged by a group of players in court. Universities might challenge it. It's going to end up in the courts. And plus you still have the Title IX thing, which I still can't figure out. if you're paying football players, how that is not a benefit under Title IX that would qualify also for female sports. So I have no idea, like, how you could separate those two when your quarterback's getting paid $30 million and somebody like the star gymnastics player in LSU is getting nothing. Like, that you can't reconcile that under Title IX. So that's all going to get played out in the court. It's going to destabilize even more.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it gets settled out, you got to have schools to fit. Maybe Wake Forest decides, hey, wait, do we really want this? Do we really want the bar to be $30 million just to get in? I think you're going to go through a very turbulent time here. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on it, Greg, but
Yeah.
I was surprised that a D1 school went down to D3.
Oh,
That just happened.
yeah, no, there's going to be more of that. No question about it. No, we are in turbulence times. No question. Yeah, man, it's and it's undetermined. It's hard to hard to fathom how it's all going to turn out.
Well, I'm just saying, like, and I tell you what, from the feedback I'm getting from people is during these turbulent times, you've had this shakeup, you have this expansion, the Big Ten and the SEC. And what happens over time as you get further away from that tremor and they face instability, people start looking into themselves and trying to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So under that environment, if I'm in a protective environment, do I want to bring Florida State into my conference? Do I want to bring a North Carolina into my conference in this realm of instability? I'm not sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are they going to get all the votes?
They're going to have to be convinced that it doesn't harm them now or into the future.
Right. And the market is the more unstable the market is, the less that vote's going to be yes.
I mean, why would Northwestern want to bring Florida State in if they think there's a chance of some Super League and they're going to be, it's just these schools are going to go with this. In the past, like if the SEC expanded, everybody and if they were convinced that it brought more money into the conference, and if the schools fit, they would vote for it because it lifted everybody's boats. But if these schools are like, are we talking unequal revenue sharing now? Okay, we'll have, Alabama can make more than us. If I'm Mississippi State, Georgia can make more than us. But, that's about it. And maybe a few more schools, but they've been here for the longest. They've been the top ones. So we're going to bring somebody into the SEC that's going to make more than us, and we've been here for decades. Politically, I mean, if the leaders did that in these universities, they would be kicked out of there. You can't do that. So again, that's why I'm saying these candidates have to come in like a feather. They've got to build trust with the presidents that they're coming in. It ain't just about viewership numbers. I'm sorry, it isn't. And by the way,
it isn't.
Viewership numbers don't tell the whole story, because viewership numbers in some of these markets, the lower the viewership number is still more valuable to the media partners than the high viewership numbers in some of these other media markets. That's also that is known throughout the industry.
Right. So Greg, if the college football playoff, Notre Dame and Penn State, if Notre Dame and Penn State played that college football game on ABC at 7 p.m. at night on a Saturday, how many people do you think watch that?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? Like, viewership numbers can be manipulated whether you're on ABC or ESPN, and some people won't watch games on ESPN because they don't like ESPN. So, I mean, it's just, like you said, like, you can't go by these numbers. You can't sit there and speculate.
Well, you can speculate. Okay, so like a Mississippi State nitwit, Okay, you look at their viewership number. Well, you know, they lose most of their football games. Look at who they're playing. I mean, most of us would lose, not Penn State, but most other programs would have an under 500 record in the SEC conference with an 8-game conference schedule if we were in the SEC. Most of us would be over a 20-year period. Okay? That's just the way it is, guys. You're playing Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. Of course you are. And so you're not going to get the time slots. You're not going to get on the big, but you can't, it isn't, if Mississippi went to the Big 12, and I'm not trying to take a shot at the Big 12 today or the ACC, but if Mississippi State were in the Big 12, do you think they would have the same exact record that they've had over 20 years in the SEC? No, they won't. They would have won more games. Most likely, they would have had better time slots, more national game. I mean, try playing. That's my view of it. I do understand why other people outside the SEC would view it differently, or outside the Big Ten. But it ain't. I have this notion, there are a bunch of people out there in the Big 12, the ACC, G5, whatever, outside of SEC Big Ten country. I have this notion that a bunch of people are out there thinking half the SEC doesn't even try. Half of the Big Ten doesn't even try. Half of the SEC don't put any money into it. Half of the Big Ten don't put any money into it. My God, they're putting as much money as you are, but they're playing the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes in Michigan. They're playing Alabama. I mean, these are monster programs. Look at what they do every year. Look what the SEC, top SEC and the top Big Ten teams do when they play outside of their conference. Hell, look at the Gophers. Look what they do when they play out. Look at what the last handful of Big 12 teams they played. So it ain't like we're sitting around it ain't like Minnesota and Illinois, and it ain't like we're sitting here taking all this money and sitting on it and going, well, we're not investing. Of course they are. But they're playing against, look who they're playing against, man. And we do not the year, Nitwit, when Minnesota and Penn State played, when we were both 8-0, right? That had incredible ratings. I mean, you got to win, then you got to get those national time spots, and then the ratings come. But for a lot of us, It's hard because we're going against these big time programs that historically win 10, 11, 12 games a season. If you have top programs in the SEC and the Big Ten continuing to win 10, 11, 12 games in a season, it doesn't allow the rest of us. It's like we need a miracle shot. Indiana had their miracle shot. Minnesota had it in 2019. Well, guess what? Most teams in the ACC and the Big 12 would be the same thing. They would. Florida State is an exception. Clemson is an exception. Miami is one as well. And it may be one or two in the Big 12, but most of you are just like us. You know, you have a good year, you have a bad year, and you're investing as much money as we are. I don't think you're red meat and we're dog meat. I don't think that at all. I don't think Illinois is dog meat. I don't think Michigan State is dog meat. I think they're just getting beat up by bigger programs. And once in a while, we can upset them, just like Big 12 and ACC schools would as well. Go ahead, Nitwit. I'll let you finish.
But I'm just saying, you just brought it up here. So if you're going to call Illinois dog meat, well, tomorrow they can go out and hire the next Saban, get a big booster, donate millions of dollars. Within 2 years, well, they're the top 4 program in the Big Ten.
Well, I've already got them as the top 4. I've already got them as a top 4 team in the Big Ten this year.
Right, but I know. But I'm just saying, do you know what I mean? That could catapult them.
Yeah.
But you have to beat the big teams.
I think they're already doing that. I think Illinois had a great
Right.
year last year. I think they're primed this year.
Right.
These
I think they're gonna
teams
have a
are
great year,
trying.
too.
It's just, I think, again, you know what? People outside the Big 12, it's hard for them to understand Big 12. People outside the ACC, it's hard for them to understand ACC. People outside the Big 10, it's hard. And that's why these shows are so great. We've got people from all over the country speaking their mind, and we're all trying to understand each other better. Nitwit, I appreciate your call. Go ahead and
Yeah,
finish
thanks
up.
a lot, Greg. You take care.
You got it. Thank you. The Observer, I love Big 12 football, so do I. I watch everything. We do watch parties. I don't know how many we did last year. A lot of them were Big 12. A lot of them were Big 10. A lot of them were SEC. A lot of them were ACC. This is a national college football show. Anyways, I appreciate everybody from. I love the calls. Rick, Nitwit, Wild Jute, you guys were absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I want to thank the generosity of Bill G, Expedition Greg, Jimmy Austin, Go Black 45, Ricky Tungate, Preston from Greensboro, and Ryan Willie. Thank you guys so much for your donation and help us keep the lights on here at College Football's Peak Around the Corner. We are going to be in a very interesting April, and we are finishing this month of March off very strong here at PATC. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Smash that like button if you've liked our content today. Hit the thumbs down button if you did not. If I yelled at Wild Jute too much, or Nitwit, or Rick, hit that thumbs down button and let me know in the comments section. I appreciate you all coming on in. We talked college football today, top 15. Top 15 quarterbacks going into college football in 2025. Your guy might not have been on the list. Let me know why he should have been on the list. I think Arch Manning at 12, I think he's going to be in the top 3 at the end of the season. Nussmeier, Levitt, and Manning. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.